Hey guys, how's it going? This is HelpfulLockPicker here, and in today's video was a request that a viewer submitted requesting how I can put an American lock padlock back together after I picked and gutted it. So what I'm going to do is show you how to put this one back together, and if you'd like to see the video where I picked and gutted this exact block, what I'll do is put a link on the top here so you can check it out. So in order to get started with reassembling an American lock padlock, I'm going to go over a few of the supplies. The only supply you're going to need to have is going to be a Phillips head screwdriver so you can tighten up the screw and keep everything together. But a few of the optional supplies which will make your life a lot easier is going to be a pinning tray. And if you do not have a pinning tray, what you can do is get some corrugated cardboard and just peel it back and use the corrugations to separate your pins. The next thing that will make your life easier is going to be some pinning tweezers, a appropriate sized plug follower, your circlip remover to help push the circlip back in, a lock pick, and also the key to your lock. So when you first get started, you're going to need to decide if you want to put the plug or the Bible back together first. I typically opt to do the Bible last, so let's start with the plug. So I have all of my key pins in the appropriate chambers, so what we're going to need to do is just put the right pin in the right chamber. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with pin number 1, and we're going to be able to put that into chamber number 1. So when you're looking at the plug of a lock, you just need to make sure that you're oriented the right way, so you're not going to put the wrong pin in the wrong spot. So pin 1 is going to be where the key first inserts. So we're going to take pin number 1, and we're just going to drop it straight down, and then we're just going to do this going all the way back to 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One thing to make note is that this is a 6-pin plug, but we're only going to populate it with 5 pins because we only have a 5-pin key. But if you wanted to pin this up with 6, you could do that, but you just want to make sure that you have a 6th key pin and a 6th driver pin and a 6th spring. So when you want to make sure that your key is going to work, one step I'd like to do, you just need to be a little bit careful, is taking your key and you're just going to carefully insert it so that all the pins do not shoot out. And then you just want to make sure that the pins are all sitting flush going across. If they are too recessed or if they are sticking out too far, your key is not going to open up your lock. But you want to make sure your key is going to work before you put your lock together, because that can really add to a lot of the trouble, because then you're going to need to troubleshoot that. And just always be careful taking your key out so that your pins do not shoot out. So now that we have our plug all set, the next thing we're going to work on is going to be the Bible. So one thing on the Bible you need to do is just make sure you know where you're going to start. So when you take a look at this Bible here, you can see a little area that's sticking out, and that's going to be where pin 1 is going to go. If you look on the other side, you're going to see how it sits flush. So just remember, on American locks, you need to start where the front of the Bible is sticking out just a little bit. Now, in order to do this, one of the easier ways, and there's several ways to do this, I like to do it with a plug follower, but this is not 100% needed, but it is going to be the easiest way. So I always start with seeing where the first spring is going to go, which I just showed you, and we're going to put our springs in, starting with 1, and then we're going to work our way back. One nice thing about the springs in the American locks is they're not too tall, so that you're going to be able to put the driver pins in and have a little bit of room, so it's not going to be hard to put them in. So once I get to spring 3, I like to flip it around and then put in 4. You just need to make sure that you know that we're skipping 6 in this case. So once you have them all in and you want to verify, you can look down the holes here and you can see that they're all going to be in place. So the next step I like to do is take my plug follower, and I like to insert it this way, and then I'm going to line it up with 5. And then I'm going to take my serrated pin. And on the serrated pin, there's an area that has a little bit more of a gap on the serrations, and I like to put that one facing the spring. So we're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think I need to pull back just a little bit, 5. Now, once you have that pin in place, you're going to see it sticking up a little bit, and what I have done is I have just put it in 4. One thing you can do to make this easier, if you would like, is just push your plug follower all the way forward, skip 6, and then put number 5 in if you find that easier. And then we can just put it down just like that. And then we can push it down with our pinning tweezers, or we can use our lockpick. Then we're going to push this back, and now that we have 5 all set, 4 should be very easy to find. So now I'm going to put the serrated spool in 4, and you have the option of using your pinning tweezers or using your lockpick. But one thing I like about American locks is that when you have the driver pin in there, it's going to stay set on its own a little bit. Some locks you really have to finesse to be able to line it up and push it down. But that's not the case. The American locks. So now moving on to 3. And we're just going to keep working our way back until we get the first driver pin in. Moving on to 2. And now moving on to 1. And I'll get a good close-up of 1 for you. So when we're moving on to 1, you can see how on American locks the pin just sits there very easily, so it's very easy to just push it down. Then we're going to move our plug follower all the way forward. So one thing you're going to want to make note of is you're going to want to now turn your plug follower 90 degrees, because you're going to want to have this flat part, because if you leave it like this and when you go to push it through, your pins are going to jump out. So keep your plug follower like this for now. And then we're going to take a look at the plug itself. So when we reinstall the plug, we're going to want to make sure it's turned so that the actuator component is going to be aligned right here. If you have it facing the other way, you're going to have a gap, and then the pins are going to jump down. And you cannot insert it straight on, because you do not want to have 1, a gap, and 2, you do not want the driver pins to launch into here, which will seize the lock up. So I like to turn it slightly counterclockwise, make sure everything's aligned right, and then just push it through. Once it's through, I can remove my plug follower, I can lock the lock up, then I can get my circlip right here, and one of the optional things is you can use your circlip remover to push the clip down. Some are more difficult than others. So once you have your clip aligned, you just take it and you're just going to push it down, and what that's going to do is hold your plug in place when you have the lock turned over with the key. So before you go any further, I find it very important to make sure that your key is going to open up your lock. So let's just make sure it's going to open it up both ways very easily. But one thing you need to make sure you do not do is turn your lock over 180 degrees. I can show you right here that the holes, if I were to turn my lock over, the key pins would fall out. And you do not want to have any of that. And if you pick the lock, you can have the driver pins fall out too once the key pins fall out. Just please be very careful with that. But now that we know that the plug is going to work, what we're going to need to do is install it back into the lock body. So in order to accomplish this, what we're going to do is we're going to take our lock, and then we're going to put it down just like this. So you're going to see the actuator down on the inside here. We're going to put the lock in, and then once it's in, you just need to scoot it over one way or the other so it's not going to be blocking the hole. And I like to scoot it over to the right because that's the right way for it to align. Once you have that perfectly aligned, what you're going to need to do is take the front faceplate and you're going to drop that down. Then you're going to take the part where that screw is going to go into, so the locking nut here. And then one thing you can do before you finally screw everything together is going to be to just lock it up and test that it's going to work with the key, because once it's locked and it's going to be very, very hard to fix. So now that we verified that, all we have to do is just drop our screw down. We're going to take our Phillips head and we're just going to tighten it up just like you would any other Phillips head screw. Now once that's tight, the faceplate is holding the lock body into the lock and it's going to be properly secured. We can, one last time, open it with the key, and that's it. That is how you can reinstall and reassemble an American lock in just a few minutes. It's a really fun thing to do. Learning to pick and gut American locks is a really great exercise, and being able to put them back together is very, very important. I want to say thank you to the commenter that suggested I make this video, and I really hope that this video is helpful to someone out there. But either way, guys, if you have any questions or suggestions, as always, please drop those right in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, please subscribe. As always, thank you so much for checking out this video, and I hope you all have a great day. I just want to say thank you so much for checking this out.